And the Defense Secretary and Secretary of State are briefing lawmakers today on the September 2nd strikes that killed 2 survivors of an initial attack. Secretaries Rubio and Hegseth spoke a little while ago after their closed-door meeting with members of the Senate. They say appropriate committees will see video of the strike, but not the public.
Obviously, we had a classified hearing, so the details of which we can't discuss. It's, I believe, our 22nd or 23rd bipartisan engagement. We'll continue to engage with Congress on this. We're headed to the House now to do a similar briefing and provide updates on this counter-drug mission, which is focused on dismantling the infrastructure of these terrorist organizations that are operating in our hemisphere, undermining the security of Americans, killing Americans.
We're also going to tomorrow allow the HASC and SASC to see the unedited video of the September 2nd alongside with Admiral Bradley. But in keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course, we're not going to release a top secret, full unedited video of that to the general public.
And now Rubio and Hegseth are meeting with the House about those strikes that some are calling a war crime. And this is all happening as the Pentagon's sharing details about 3 new deadly boat strikes in the Eastern Pacific. ABC's Jay O'Brien and senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez are here with more on that. Louis, Hegseth says he's not going to release classified video to the public, but he posted video of the first strike in this attack. He's posted lots of other strikes, videos of them. So what's different about this one?
Well, Dan, there are 25 strikes overall that have started on September 2nd with this controversial airstrike that is generating all the anxiety on the Capitol Hill about let's make this public. But we should point out that what he is talking about, Defense Secretary Hegseth is talking about, is releasing the full video. What has happened over the span of the last 3 months is that the Pentagon, the White House, U.S. Southern Command, what they have done is they have released snippets, clips of the initial strike of every one of these incidents. And now we are aware of only 3 incidents where there were survivors. Publicly, that's what we've been told, that there were only 3 incidents so far, beginning with this one, but that we only became aware of the first incident only because there was a newspaper report about it. So the question then, why not release all of the others? I think the same argument is valid for Hegseth in Hegseth's mind, which is that essentially, nope, not going to release a top secret video, but we are going to release the initial strikes. And I will say that they have been consistent in doing that all the way through since September 2nd.
Jay, what's coming out of these meetings with lawmakers about the September 2nd boat strike?
Yeah, I've heard from some lawmakers inside that room, Diane, who say generally these briefings are, at least in some aspect, giving members of Congress, both every single senator and every single member of the House, the rationale for what defense officials look for, the intelligence they gather, and how they green light these strikes on what they say are these suspected drug boats, although they've never made evidence proving that these are drug boats publicly available. They have said they have given that evidence over to members of Congress. Although Democrats, at least Senate Democrats who emerged from that briefing earlier today, said that they still had concerns about that September 2nd strike. That September 2nd strike, the one that killed those 2 survivors, doesn't appear to be the main topic of this briefing. Obviously, it's been brought up because of this series of 25 or so strikes since September. And Democrats who emerged from that room say, first, the video of the September 2nd strike was not played for all senators. It will be given to relevant committees, as you said earlier, but that was a point of contention. Democrats emerged from that room and said, we didn't see the video, and if we're not on the Armed Services or the Intelligence Committees, it's unclear if they would get access to it. That's the first thing. Second thing Democrats said is it didn't assuage their concerns about the overall operations in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific. Republicans have come out saying that they are reaffirmed in their belief that these strikes are lawful and justified. One more thing here, though, Diane, is it didn't necessarily answer members' questions about the overall goal of these strikes and the administration's overall mission when it comes to Venezuela. Lindsey Graham, who's been hawkish about regime change in Venezuela, trying to oust Nicolas Maduro, said when he walked out of that briefing earlier, he didn't get a clear answer on what the next steps were for this administration and what their overall goal is when it comes to Maduro.
Louis, what's the latest on these new strikes? What are you watching for there?
Well, Diane, these are the first 3 strikes in almost 2 weeks. Now, since November 15th, there have only been those 2 strikes. The strikes that there was like a 3-week gap that we saw following really consistent strikes, almost weekly. We saw several taking place every week. And then there was a 3-week gap. And then on December 4th, we saw the first strike. Since then, yet again, another 2-week gap. So we've seen what appears to be a slowdown in the pace of the targeting. Potentially, that means there's been some comments made by Secretary Hegseth and by President Trump that they're having difficulty finding boats. But yesterday, there were these 3 targets that were struck that led to the 8 fatalities, which brings to now 95 the number of individuals that have been killed in these 25 strikes. But it'll be interesting to see if the pace continues to slow down or if it's going to increase over time, given the increasing rhetoric that we continue to hear from the administration.
Jay, meanwhile, lawmakers are running out of time to come up with a solution to Obamacare subsidies before they expire at the end of the month. Is there a path forward there?
Right now, there isn't, Diane. Those subsidies expire at the end of December, but Congress only has a few days left this week before they go home for their holiday recess, which will go all the way into January. And by the time they come back in their normal schedule, those subsidies will have expired, and insurance premiums for some 20 million Americans who get their insurance through the Affordable Care Act will skyrocket. We have seen these bipartisan discussions and policy proposals go on through both the House and Senate. The Senate had this kind of confab, this gathering of members of both sides of the aisle last night that didn't seem to yield much of a result. In the House this week, as early as tomorrow, lawmakers will take up a vote on a GOP health care plan that doesn't address these Obamacare tax credits in any way, shape, or form. We've heard from some moderate Republicans who are trying to push leadership to act on this and partnering with Democrats to try to create petitions and get the necessary signatures for petitions that would compel votes on the House floor to extend these ACA tax credits. But right now, none of those have the required number of signatures. As we hurtle toward that deadline, point is, right now, there doesn't look like a solution here on Capitol Hill that's going to prevent those premiums from skyrocketing come January.
All right, Jay O'Brien, Louis Martinez, thank you both.